5 to 6.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Psych and the Soul, Psychology and the Soul. I'm spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White, and I'm with my dear friend.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Shirley Impellizzeri, psychologist, and also co-host with Kel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
We have a very special topic tonight. And Shirley, I've been asked this question so many times. And it's, people ask me all the time, is this society, addicted to healing?
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about that, because Shirley and I come from a background of wanting to heal.
Right.
But
so not thinking
is do this.
Right. But as kids, that wasn't even anything that our parents ever talked about or even in the realm of their scope at all.
Well, my mother was a psychologist and
that's different. Yes.
Female therapists back in the day. So we did talk about it, but it still wasn't the way it is now.
Yeah.
It's very different, and this is a conversation that probably people need to have because we have never lived in a time with more therapists. Shirley, you and I practiced, had an office together in Beverly Hills. And didn't they say that there were like 100 therapists on every block at that time?
Yeah.
I think Beverly Hills. Exaggeration. I think it was about that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think like anything else, and we might have touched upon it in other shows, the pendulum swings to the other side until it finds a happy medium. And so you really have to find what works for you, what's comfortable for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And, now we have coaches. We have more podcasts.
Right.
We have a lot more self-help books. I mean, back in the day, we did have a few self-help books. In fact, we had some really interesting ones. But we also have more healing programs. We also have more trauma education. Again, when I was in grad school, we really, of course, we talked about trauma, but not in the way that it is now.
No. Well, because we're understanding trauma in a different way. Actually, I had a conversation with one of my patients today about what's considered big T traumas and small T traumas, and what we used to think about trauma, the way we used to define trauma are what we would consider the big T traumas.
Explain to people what that is.
Well, that would be like sexual abuse, physical abuse, the big deal stuff that we all thought was trauma. That is trauma, of course. But we didn't consider what we consider the small T traumas, which is ongoing stressors in life. A mother which is someone I was talking to today, who was so narcissistic, she couldn't think about what her child needed. So it was ongoing little things like this, and those create stress. They create a lot of stress, and it can be seen as traumatic. It is trauma that we experience. So having a stressful childhood that you can't necessarily pinpoint to physical abuse or sexual abuse could still be trauma. You can still have the effects of what we consider trauma as an adult.
And so what you're really saying is there's more awareness now of mental health and more awareness of certainly of the topic of trauma.
Exactly. And what I love too is that it's discussed a lot more openly now, that we're not so shy about talking about it,
Right.
I mean, even when I came to this, I thought, didn't realize why I had decided to go into psychology, which of course there's always something that pushes us to the professions that we choose. And I remember I was talking to, it was Dr. Peter Levine and Dr. Drew at the time, because he was going to be on his podcast. And Dr. Drew says to me, well, Cheryl, why are you into this? Why did you get into psychology? Why are you so interested in trauma and all this stuff? What was your childhood like? And I said, I never thought I had any trauma. Nobody drank, nobody smoked, nobody fought. in my family, there was no chaos. There was nothing. I said, and my dad's send off to college to me was study a lot and get a good education, and don't get into a relationship because emotions are a waste of time. And they both literally stopped what they were doing, looked at me, started cracking up and said, we get it.
Yeah, we get it.
So neglect can also be trauma when there's no one mirroring your existence.
It can be worse, actually.
Well, they do say that sometimes it has worse psych effects.
Yeah.
So for trauma that we would have in the past never considered.
Right. It's right. It wouldn't have been a topic.
No.
Wouldn't have come up.
No.
And people now, we're wondering why people feel, more anxious right now, or frankly, more disconnected. And some people feel very overwhelmed right now and more lonely. Loneliness is an epidemic.
Yeah,
and
it really is.
More exhausted than ever. People will say to me all the time, I'm so exhausted. And I hear this all the time. So tonight we're going to ask a provocative question is, have we, though, even though Shirley and I are talking about all of these situations, are we addicted, or have we become addicted to healing? And so not healing itself, but maybe the endless pursuit of healing, because instead of like the constant belief that we are broken,
right,
and the pressure maybe to be fixing ourselves, or to always be fixing ourselves, or always be improving ourselves, or always evolving, or always working on ourselves. I mean, at what point does healing become another form of maybe self-judgment?
Yeah. Well, it's such an important conversation.
It is. Or surely does it become an obsession?
Yeah.
Or what if we're searching for something that, isn't a breakthrough, but maybe it's just a permission to finally live?
Right. Well, when we're always looking for the healing, always focused on what went wrong, instead of taking a step back and going, how far have I come?
That right there. And repeat that.
Yeah. To take a step back, say, how far have I come? Yeah. What have I healed? What doesn't trigger me as much as it used to? Right. And really noticing where we've progressed and where we have healed. As you've taught me, Kellee, Earth is a school. So we're always going to be in the process of evolving. There's always going to be room to evolve, to become, I don't want to say better people, healed, but we also have to take a step back and see how far we've come. That is just as important.
I think it's really important, actually. And it kind of answers the question about, is healing, what are we doing at this point? Because I think it's really important to understand yourself so well, know thyself, know where you are. And maybe you are in grief, or maybe you are in a depression, and know where you are at all times. I've had many people, and I'm sure you have, Shirley, that have said, I need to take a break from therapy now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally
absolutely. Because you also have to give the time to integrate everything that you've learned and what you've been healing. And integration takes time. It's slowing things down. It's looking at where you were and where you are. Yeah. And also where you want to go, of course. But slowing things down really helps with integration, instead of always being on that healing kind of wheel.
Right. That's so important. And so we want to look at, when healing becomes an identity, because let's start with something that people may not realize, Shirley, that sometimes the thing that once helped us begins to limit us. So I know people, with every diagnosis, so we can talk about attachment style or trauma response. I mean, people know everything about themselves at this point, every nervous system term, but they no longer know who they are outside of their wounds. And that kind of concerns me, because healing should expand your identity, not replace it.
Absolutely. Trauma and our traumatic experiences, or experiences that felt traumatic, explains our behavior, but it doesn't define our identity, nor does attachment. Attachment gives us an understanding of who we are, but it doesn't define us. How our nervous system works allows us to understand ourselves a little bit better, even at that level, at the nervous system level, but it also doesn't define us.
Mhm. Right, right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
healing requires flexibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we have to be flexible to understand all of us. It's not just one thing. We really can't run the risk of labeling ourselves into one thing. We're so, it's like the proverbial onion. There's so many layers to us. And
Mhm.
understanding is one thing, but not labeling, not getting stuck there.
Right, right.
Identity is who we are, is larger than our pain, and larger than just one facet of us.
Do you think that over-identification keeps people stuck?
It can, because, and it's an important part of the process. It's important to own and to validate who we are and where we came from and what happened to us. People, sometimes I actually see that people want to skip that step too quickly and get to the healed piece, but it's so important to validate
Right,
as a first step,
right.
and then include reconnecting with our strengths, with what we can do, with our possibilities,
Right.
because a lot of times the survival skills that we developed as kids
Mhm.
can work for us as adults.
Yeah.
They can work against us if it's too much, but
Mhm.
in different areas they can work for us.
Right. I had a woman that came to me that could explain every trauma she had ever experienced. I'm sure you've had patients like that. And she could identify every trigger and every pattern and every wound. And we went through this many, 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 many times. And finally, I asked her, because it was kind of just she wasn't going in a negative, but there was just really not a lot of growth with that. It was great that she got there.
Yeah.
That continued. So I asked her, what do you like about yourself? And I want everybody to think about that.
Yeah.
What do you like about yourself? And I actually got that from my grandkids when I had this card deck, and this card deck said questions for kids.
Yeah.
And it was a great question. So, and I asked this woman that, and she said to me, I don't know. It's funny, as adults, we may not know what we like
You
about
may
ourselves.
not know. Yeah.
Again, we're surrounded by, this wound, that wound, this trauma. Well, what do you like about yourself? And funny, my grandchildren, 6 and 9, could go right to it.
Really?
Yeah, right to it they went. But not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way, this client of mine became like an expert in her pain, but a stranger to herself.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Well, I'd venture to say that not everybody has a wise grandma to ask them that question, to ask those kids that question.
That's very true. But it was a wise grandma that purchased said cards.
Well, and that's why said cards exist, to help us shift this paradigm where we're always just looking at what isn't working. And that is also because of the negativity bias in the brain. And I'm sure many of you have heard me say this. It's actually a very real neurobiological. We have a negativity bias because it's evolutionary. It's to save the species. We have to remember everything negative to not repeat that, so the species can survive. The positive stuff, who cares? That was the cave where the bears live, where my friend got killed. That's the cave where we had fun. Okay, who cares about that? I need to remember that cave because that's going to save my life.
Right.
So we already have that to begin with. And so it kind of is part of our makeup to focus on the traumas, focus on the stuff that isn't working, focus on the stuff that hasn't happened yet. And it's very, there's a wonderful book called The Buddha Brain, Dr. Rick Hansen, who talks about how we have to be very purposeful, very conscious to stop for a moment and think about the positive things, think about how far we've come.
Yeah, which is what we're really talking about tonight. Think about how far you've come.
Right.
And think about what do you like about yourself? It's a simple question.
Yeah.
And then ask your friends, what do they like about themselves? Ask your family members if it's safe. It's safe, you
Yeah.
know. But social media has created something pretty fascinating because people are sharing more now than they've ever shared before, right?
Yeah.
Are we becoming more authentic, or is it really performance? You know, I
Yeah.
wonder about that. And then when does vulnerability heal, and when
Yeah.
does it become content?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a mixture of both. I think we like to really, criticize social media because of that, because it feels performative, because people only post pictures of when they're having fun. So they have a big smile on their face. No one's going to post a picture of today I was depressed. I
I don't
mean,
know, I've seen things like that.
I might actually start doing that. But we don't. And so we have this tendency to think that everybody has a great life and we're missing out on it. So it's important to look for both, to have a mixture of both. Social media has wonderful sayings that can help lift a spirit.
Mhm.
And it's becoming a little bit more balanced. At least my
Yeah.
feed is more balanced in that because I look for things like that, you know. But when you talk about vulnerability, we're so afraid of being vulnerable to someone. And actually genuine vulnerability builds connection.
Oh, for sure.
When you tell me something that happened to you that you're feeling, that caused you to feel bad or caused you to feel sad, I feel so connected to
Mm.
you. On the one hand, you're human, and it makes you see your humanness.
Yeah.
And so it will. I remember one time I was working with this patient, and she told me this, and I never forgot. She had talking with her was maybe soon to be an ex-boyfriend, and really sharing with him how she felt. And she said, and in that moment, I realized the power, the strength in vulnerability.
Mm.
She was able to share her innermost feelings, and however he reacted was his stuff. But she was able to share how she really felt, and she noticed the strength in that.
And that's very healing.
Very healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the most healing experiences in life is being witnessed. And that's
Oh, yeah.
exactly what happened with what you just said. But
Yeah.
being witnessed isn't the same thing as being watched. It's the difference. It's different, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, being watched can be creepy. Being seen, being witnessed is part of being seen, and that's at the core of attachment.
Yeah.
To feel seen, even to the level of feeling felt by someone,
Mm.
Creates so much safety
Mm-hmm.
because you don't feel alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this is a question for everybody listening. When was the last time you shared something because it was true instead of because it would get a response?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good question there. But
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about the elephant in the room, Shirley, that healing has become an industry.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really has, and a very profitable one.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
while many people are doing amazing work, and listen, we know so many people in our circle are healers,
Yeah.
and I love every one of them. And so many are doing great work, but there's also a message about being sold. Like the message is you're not there yet, or you still need one more course, or you still need one more certification. And I have
Mm-hmm.
many people that I work with that have every kind of certification that you could imagine.
Right. Right.
I mean, it's like I just need one more breakthrough, or I just need one more healing session, or one more answer. So,
Mm-hmm.
at what point do we stop chasing ourselves? Like, when are we good enough?
Yeah. Well, I mean, realizing, of course, and we all know this, but sometimes it's important to hear it, that perfection is unattainable. It's not about being perfect, you know, and to notice when you're doing too much. Self-improvement can become compulsive. To take a step back, to also take a survey, maybe add that into your healing protocol every night, just like we do the gratitude journal, which all the research shows that it's so helpful. To also maybe journal, what do I like about myself today, or how far have I come? Where did I feel healing today?
That's a
You
good one.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because that would help balance both.
Hmm.
The need to heal, but also the coming into what has worked? What have I healed?
Right.
What feels a little bit better?
And progress does include rest.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's what we're talking about, is slowing things down. That is about rest. That is about, you know, not always wanting to do the next thing, taking a step back, slowing things down. A way to slow things down is to ground yourself, maybe take 2 minutes. It doesn't have to take that long at any time of the day to notice your feet on the ground,
Yeah.
to notice your seat in the chair. These are the orienting muscles. And so to orient into where you are in the here and now, looking around the room, and that really puts you in the here and now. And so then your mind isn't going on, what do I still need to heal? It's where I'm at in this moment.
I like that. Yep. And the pressure to be spiritually evolved, that's been been a big one, because spiritual communities they can be really great. I mean, I have a wonderful spiritual community that I just absolutely love. And it can also create pressure, like pressure to always be positive, or pressure to always be high vibrational, or any of that, pressure to always be enlightened. But what happens when people stop being human in order to appear spiritual?
Right. And that there's always one more meditation that you can do, or one more thing that you can do. It really, you really have to kind of tune into yourself enough to know, are you doing that to yourself? Yeah. Are you always feeling like you're not doing enough?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important, because also feeling your feelings is an important thing, even if your feelings can be shitty at times. We talk about being positive, but toxic positivity can suppress emotions, because you don't feel safe feeling anger, rage, even disappointment. And all those feelings are so natural. And truly, the only thing that feelings want is to be labeled, to be named, to be seen. The neuroscientists have a saying, name it to tame it. So when something happens and I feel angry, enough is to go, wow, that made me angry. I don't have to react in an angry way. I don't have to act in an angry way. I can just name it.
Right.
Yeah.
And humans are going to experience all kinds of emotions.
Absolutely. And, we've talked also about talking about spirituality, that spiritual bypassing avoids the necessary healing work when we feel like we've evolved. And I've heard so many people, not so many, but through the years, I don't feel anger anymore. I'm evolved. As if anger is this 4-letter word that we should never feel.
Right. I mean, it really, and anger and grief and sadness are normal.
Absolutely. Emotional avoidance delays this growth that we're all wanting, but we have a sense in our society, I think, that the less emotional we are, the more healed we are. I've heard people say, well, that didn't even upset me. And it was something like egregious. And I go, really? That didn't upset you? Because it would be natural for someone to feel upset. Again, then we choose how we want to respond to it. And no response is a response.
Right.
But we can't control our feelings. If we're not feeling, that means that we're suppressing them. Right. We can control our reactions. Not that easy, but we can. But we can't control how we feel.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had like a difficult season, I would say, from probably last October till probably all the way through until the end of May, actually. Even a couple months or a couple of weeks after that, probably till mid-June. So probably for a good 6 months, I would say. And it wasn't that I always go into a what would I call it? A spiritual space of knowing that whatever it is I'm going through, I will come out of that on the other end. I had some personal, family situations. Family. You think you're enlightened, check out your family. And I had that. And then I had, what did I have? Shingles, doctor. And then my dog died. And it was like, whoa, that seemed like, 1, 2, 3, a lot of big things for me that had happened. But being spiritual doesn't mean that I avoid the experience.
Right.
It just meant literally it meant that I was present with it. And I did talk a lot about it, but it's a real thing. And I don't care who you are, you're always going to have situations. You're human
Absolutely.
having experiences on earth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And being spiritual doesn't mean that you avoid the experience because I'm supposed to be going through this. You still feel it because we're human. Just as you said, we're human in this lifetime. And many people who, I'm going to say it like this, fancy themselves as very spiritual, are still human in this lifetime and still have experienced trauma and still need to heal that trauma, heal those wounds.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's interesting because you cannot avoid certain situations.
No.
You just deal with it. And, for me, I will say that what got me through all of that was my spiritual belief.
Yeah.
That always gets me through things. So why are we so exhausted? I think one of the biggest epidemics today isn't maybe not be depression, but it may be emotional exhaustion.
Yeah.
And I think people are tired, and I think they're tired of analyzing and tired of fixing and tired of performing and tired of carrying the pressure to become their highest self, every day.
Right.
But what if healing isn't another thing on your to-do list?
Right. Yeah. Sometimes, the famous Freud, and we actually don't know if he actually said this or not, but sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and sometimes we just have to go through it and feel it. The chronic self-monitoring can create fatigue. That can be exhausting. If I'm constantly monitoring, how am I feeling? What's affecting me? What isn't affecting me? Where are my triggers? That can be exhausting too.
Yeah. What about perfectionism, Shirley?
Well, that increases stress too. I mean, that's just kind of something that sets you up to fail because we can never reach perfectionism. In fact, you know what perfect is? Is being imperfect.
There you go.
I mean, without sounding cliche or what's that? It was a beautiful song from, I don't know. I don't listen to contemporary music, but what was his name? He sang it to his wife and the video was on a piano. And he said, I love your imperfections. Oh, what's his name? I have his face in my mind, but I can't remember. I'm sure one of our listeners will know who it is. But yeah, I think that is the goal, to allow yourself to be imperfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Play, support healing, play.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I've shared with you before that I went one time, before COVID, to a 3-day workshop, 3 days on the neurobiology of play. Because play is so important. Now, adult play is going to look different than childhood play, of course, but to have that kind of an easiness, a lightness.
Yeah.
What
would you say about integration during those times? Does that happen a lot when you're in those kind of states of mind?
Well, in what kind of states of mind?
Like joy or playing, on the word playing.
Absolutely.
Having a good time, maybe.
Yes, that helps with integration. Integration also happens when you're able to reflect, again, is what we're talking about in this episode, to be able to reflect, how far have I come?
Yeah.
What do I like about myself? What wounds have I healed? What doesn't trigger me as much?
Right.
And that, bringing that up and really acknowledging that helps with integration.
Oh, it does. And, the loneliness that nobody really talks about, but we have more access to information than ever before. Yeah. And yet people feel profoundly alone. I had so many clients that will tell me I'm just lonely. But we feel more connected nowadays, Shirley, because we have, there's so many places to connect.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. We feel connected when we're on, social media and we read a post that really, goes along with what I'm feeling. And so I feel a connection there because somebody out there is feeling it too. So it does create a feeling of connection, but interaction, being with people, that's what really creates connection. That's what really gives you connection, because you're in front of each other. There's energies flowing back and forth.
The song you were thinking of was by John Legend.
Yes.
Yeah, All of Me.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Wasn't me.
Right. I figured it was one of our listeners. I knew somebody would know what that is.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, it's a beautiful song. But yeah, community supports emotional health. You know, sometimes we tend to isolate, and people, for example, like me, who are avoidant attachment, shy, and an introvert, tend to isolate. So I actually put it in my schedule to do things with people. Not that I don't enjoy socializing and being with people, but it's very easy for me to just stay home.
You really do exactly what you just said. You actually go out. In fact, I know you have a dinner plan tonight even. I mean, you do plan things.
I do. I plan things very purposefully because I know from a neurobiological standpoint that being in the same room with someone, is so important to feel connected. Video always helps, and we had that thankfully during COVID, right? And of course, I feel connected to you as I'm looking at you, but it's not 100% the same as being sharing the same space with someone.
It's so true, Shirley. And maybe really what people need now is not just another self-help book, although Shirley and I have one coming out. But
it's more of a guide.
It's a good guide too.
Yeah.
But maybe, as you just said, dinner with a friend.
Exactly. Yeah.
A community or somebody who says, I see you.
Exactly. Because relationships help regulate the nervous system. So when you're in connection with someone, your nervous system regulates.
So Shirley, I'll ask you the question. What do you like about yourself? I want everybody to think about this.
Well, that's
a hard question to answer.
It is a very hard question to answer, and you're putting me on the spot, Kel.
I'm sorry. I'm just kind of curious because I want everybody to have that experience of thinking it as Shirley's thinking about it, and they're all like this. Well, what is it, Cheryl? What is it that you like about yourself?
Yeah.
I think it's such an important one.
It really, really is. It really is. And I would really encourage everyone to kind of jot that out at night, maybe at the end of the night. What do I like about myself? And I think the first thing that comes to mind as you said that is, I think I really like my curiosity.
For sure.
I've always been very curious, always wanting to understand things. And I think I really do. Sometimes it gets me in trouble. What's the expression? Curiosity killed the cat.
So true, that is so true.
but it is something that I do like about myself. Yeah. What about you, Kel? What do you like about yourself?
As I asked you the question, I said, "Oh dear, I guess I'm gonna have
that question was coming back."
If that's a tough one. It's a tough one to answer. I think what I like about myself the best is I like to be really creative, and I feel like I can be creative. I don't know if that's the right answer at this moment.
Well, your creativity.
And I'll tell you the other one, the thing I love about myself, and I do love this. I love fiercely.
Yes, you do.
That I do.
You absolutely do.
Yeah. I'm going to make a list. Everybody make a list.
Yeah.
What is it you like about yourself?
I think it's a wonderful idea. It really kind of switches us from that negativity bias into something positive. And if what comes to mind is what you still want to work on, because that did come to mind in my mind a moment ago, that's the negativity bias. And that's a wonderful thing to know and to understand. What do I still want to work on? But then bring yourself back here. But what do I like about myself now, currently, who I am currently?
So the next question you guys can ask about yourself is, what are you still trying to fix about yourself?
Yeah.
What are you still trying to fix about yourself? Now, again, Shirley and I will say that, healing is an ongoing thing. But are you living? Are you living? And what is it that you still feel that you need to work on? And it could be a million things.
Yeah.
Or maybe nothing. You might say, hey, you know what? I've done a good job right now. I think I'm cool right now.
Right. And what I would add to that is, what are you still trying to fix about yourself? Yes. And what should you start to learn to accept about yourself and not want to fix, not always looking for the fix?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Acceptance is so big.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, in our society, a big one is acceptance of our own body.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Or sometimes it could be your emotions.
Yeah. That term, that ridiculous term, too sensitive, TOO. There's no such thing as that, you know? So, except maybe if you are a very sensitive soul. Temperament is, which is actually what you sent me, today, Kellee, to take a look at. Temperament is something that we're born with. Some kids are very, very sensitive to noise and environment. Some kids aren't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a nervous system issue. It's not because you're TOO sensitive.
Right.
So maybe accepting your level of sensitivity. Maybe learning how to regulate your emotions when you don't want to be, up here, and learning how to do that, that's different. But
Right.
accepting your sensitivity is an important one.
Well, and maybe it's your past.
Mm.
Maybe it's your past. Funny, we're in Mercury retrograde right now. And I think it's going to be a doozy. And what happens during Mercury retrograde, our past comes back up. People from our past come back. Things from the past tend to come up. So is there something about your past that you need to move forward with, or you haven't accepted, or any of that? And surely maybe it's relationships. People could get stuck in relationships.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the version of yourself that you thought you would be by now.
Right.
When you're young, you project out, well, at this age, I'm going to this.
Right. Yeah, I just had that conversation today. Right.
Good.
And being able, and they're always focused on what they hadn't accomplished yet instead of, but what have you accomplished?
Right. Well, and on the other side, when we get to the other side and we do a life review, really what the guides are looking for is, what did you learn on this trip? It's not the micro focus on, it's what did you learn? Did you learn acceptance? Did you learn to love yourself? Yay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, where your work is so important, is helping people understand their soul purpose so they can get to that place of working through what they came here to work through.
Exactly. I mean, did you learn compassion? Did you learn some kindness along the way? Yahoo!
Right.
What if the person that you've been fighting with all of these years is actually you?
Exactly. Wow. Right. Sure. And what if you also notice, this came up today too, is that the way that you treat yourself, you're doing to yourself where maybe a parent left off. If you had a very critical mother or a very abusive father, and you start to, without knowing it, because we're on autopilot, I call it emotional autopilot, without realizing it, we're doing the same to ourselves. Yeah. So we're just taking over where the parent left off. And do we want to do that to ourselves? Is that something that you truly, if you think about it in those terms, is it something that you truly want to do? Because that is something that we can shift.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but we can shift that. Yeah. There's, so much research shows that self-compassion is strongly associated with psychological well-being.
That makes sense. That tracks.
Yeah. Part of us feeling better is to have self-compassion, to have compassion for that little kid that didn't get what she or he needed.
Right. I think self-compassion should be number one.
Absolutely. And some people actually have used this term, well, I'm being selfish now and I'm just thinking about myself. And we need to take the word selfish out of the dictionary, out of our vocabulary, unless, of course, we're talking about someone who's narcissistic. Selfishness is part of the dynamic, right?
Yeah.
When we think about ourselves, when we have compassion for ourselves, there's absolutely nothing selfish about that.
Yeah.
It's actually so healthy.
And on Earth, we will all go through challenging times. We came to Earth for challenges. Exactly. And I know you're thinking, no, I didn't sign up for this. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, exactly. And notice also, our level of shame, because that's a big one. Shame.
That keeps people so stuck, Shirley.
Oh my God. We get so stuck in shame of what happened to us. And that's part of where self-compassion can come and help heal the shame.
Yeah. Well, and that could be why people keep going, trying to heal that and heal that and heal that. And to, working on shame is a big one, but the people do get stuck possibly longer than the original wound even.
Right,
Shame.
right. Yeah, with shame. Well, because shame is one of the most painful emotions to feel. Shame, guilt is when we're embarrassed, when we feel bad about an action, a behavior that we did.
Yeah.
Shame is feeling bad about who we are, our existence, is feeling like there's something wrong with not a behavior, with who we are. And that is deep.
Right. What about patience, Shirley? Is patience something that holds people back? Because there may be less patience. They don't have patience.
Well, patience is an important factor. It goes along with like slowing things down, being patient with yourself. If you're not where you want to be just yet, can that be okay? Knowing that this is where you want to get to. So have patience. Patience, I see it as part of patience with others, patience with ourselves. I see as part of self-compassion and compassion.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I had a mindful meditation teacher once teach me these two sayings that were just so, they really kind of, when you hear something and your mind goes, and it just kind of, right? So he said, I'm going to ask you a question. I remember he put us into a meditation, and, meditation is associated with, you're supposed to feel calm and peaceful, right? And I go into the meditation and I start to get unbelievably anxious. And so then he says, let me ask a question. Can I be okay with what I'm noticing in this moment?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, no, I can't, because I'm supposed to feel calm and I'm feeling anxious. And he goes, and if the answer is no, then let me suggest this question. Can I be okay with not feeling okay in this moment? So the point was being okay with wherever you are in this moment, even if it's not exactly where you want to be.
Yeah. I love that.
This was years ago. This might have been, I don't know, call it 20 years ago. And I've never forgotten it. I've never forgotten his gentleness and how it just kind of sparked something in my brain that was just so life-changing.
Well, it went right to the brain where you needed it.
Yeah, exactly.
That one. We have a dear friend, Dwayne Morgan.
Oh, love Dwayne.
Great healer. And he made a great comment. He said, healing isn't always about becoming someone new. Right. It's about returning to your natural state you've always been.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you, Dwayne, because it's so true. Babies are born with an open heart to love and feel love, and so that's returning to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Shirley, talk about what some of the greatest misconceptions about healing.
Well, I think one of the greatest misconceptions is that we need to eliminate every wound, every insecurity, every difficult emotion, everything that we feel that doesn't feel good, And again, that aligns with perfectionism. That's just not human. We're messy. We're sloppy. We're messy. Again, the goal isn't perfection. It's to be able to have awareness and to own when I mess up, to be able to say, wow, I am so sorry. I messed up. Yeah. And that can be so powerful. And let me give you a little in on a neurobiology trick. Okay. When you mess up, if you repair right away, the person that you messed up on is going to remember the repair more than what the mess up was.
Very true.
And that's because the repair, when someone can actually own it, oh, wow, I am so sorry I called you that. I was just really angry. And not even I was just really angry. I am so sorry that I said that to you. The other person's nervous system goes,
right.
And that repair will stay with them if you do it right away.
I had a situation like that in grad school where one of my cohorts, a member of my cohort in grad school, and I had a complete disagreement on how to handle a situation with a client. And it was literally, we almost came to fisticuffs, as they say, between the two of us. It was I had my way of doing it and he had his way of doing it. And I think his way was way incorrect, but we kind of blew up at each other. And as I was driving later on, the phone rang and it was him. And he said, look, I really thought about what you said and I really did F up. He said, I cannot believe I went into that arena of it. And it was the first time that anybody had apologized to me like that.
Wow.
It was so deep and so feeling. So
wow.
It was really, it's very reparative. If you can get that, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's reparative on so many different levels, because in that moment you also felt seen.
Oh, completely.
And validated. And again, that's at the core of attachment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny how one repair could repair all kinds of things that had gone on in your life.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think that the universe does give us those moments to have those situations, because it's almost like every synapse kind of in me at that moment kind of went and fired off. And it was kind of what you just said. I felt like at peace, not because I was right. It had nothing to do with that. It was a really radical situation.
Yeah.
And it just felt so, I don't know, restorative.
Right. Because it's not about you were right and I was wrong. Sometimes that may be, but it's about, I am sorry about what I did. I am owning what I did. That's the repair piece.
Right.
It doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong, but when I do a misstep, when I lose it, when I say things that are not okay, that are hurtful.
Right.
To repair that piece, that's the important piece.
I'd like to ask the audience, you guys, what are you tired of trying to fix about yourself? Or what would change in your life if you truly believed you weren't broken?
Those are two wonderful questions.
I think there are a lot of people that need to hear that they're not alone tonight with that.
Absolutely. Because keeping in mind that the ability to hold all parts of ourselves without shame is healing.
Yes.
We can define healing under that. It's not about, healing all the wounds and never getting triggered and that kind of thing. It's the ability to hold all the parts of ourselves without shame. Yeah. Knowing that there are some shitty parts at times, knowing that there are some wonderful things, knowing all of it.
Yeah. And while you're sharing, if you'd like to, share with us something that you would, that if you're tired of trying to fix about yourself, let us know in the comments. But Shirley, before we close, I think this is important. And you've spent decades studying psychology and helping people heal. Has there ever been a time in your own life when all the knowledge in the world couldn't protect you from being human?
Oh, God, yeah. Yesterday.
Right. I was going to say yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just even, oh my gosh, with my own daughter, especially when I was going to all the neurobiology courses and understanding, how yelling affects, a child's brain, because the auditory processing centers are right next to the amygdala, and the amygdala is the threat detector of the brain. And I would think, oh my God, and I yelled at Sid the other day, and I would just go home and want to repair so much. So yeah, I mean, we're all human. The important thing is the repair. I hope that I've gotten much better in repair.
Yeah.
In repairing when I mess up and being able to own it without shame.
You're actually really good about that.
Thank you, Cal.
Really super good about that. Somebody is suggesting they struggle with people who worry too much, and that can be draining. What do you say to somebody who worries too much? And I had that actually situation today. I had that, Shirley, I didn't even get a chance to tell you. Somebody was so worried about one thing, and then we calmed that area down and then it was the wildest thing. It went into some explosion of worry about topics that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Wildest thing. So I just said, in my case, I said, Anne Margaret, I set a boundary and I said, all right, I got to go now. Right.
Well, worrying is about, what's underneath worry is anxiety, and anxiety is fear. And so if someone is always worrying, then that lets me know that maybe their childhood didn't feel safe. There was, that it felt unsafe. And so you learn to just, when nothing feels safe, you worry. You either worry about future stuff or you worry about past stuff, And so grounding can help, certainly working through the anxiety piece. There's a lot of wonderful somatic exercises that you can look up on YouTube for worrying to help calm the nervous system down, so the worry isn't always there, but worry is anxiety.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And when people do repair, Shirley, what is the best way to do repair if they're beating themselves up over, I don't know, eating badly, or if they're, lack of exercise, they're not taking care of themselves?
Well, ultimately, and I know this is more left brain thinking, but ultimately it comes to a choice. Do I want to beat myself up about that over and over and over again and add more stress to my life? Because now I'm just adding more stress to my life. Or do I want to view myself with compassion and say, it's okay. Today you didn't exercise. Tomorrow's a new day. I still love you.
I love that. That's very good. Yeah. That's very good. And let's talk about control situations. People that like to control. So, and they're tired of trying to control.
Yeah. Well, I would wonder if they felt so out of control as a little kid.
Okay.
Where life wasn't, no one had the reins of life. As a little kid, you expect your parents to have it under control so you can feel, but when you feel out of control as a kid, then you can overcorrect and be really into control, because otherwise the world doesn't feel safe.
Right.
And so that would be something, again, to explore in therapy. That might be something to notice what you need, just something small, maybe something small. By 8:00, I need to have this done. Well, wait until 8:02. Let's see what happens, and just kind of tune in, notice your nervous system. It's probably going to do this. Know that it'll pass. Because when it gets here is when we want to shut it down, and then we'll do whatever we didn't do at 8, right?
Yeah.
Wait until it calms. And that will start to help reduce the need for control little by little.
Wow. Well, and just remember, everybody, maybe healing is remembering the person who existed before the fear that convinced you that you were broken. So, maybe healing isn't another mountain to climb. And maybe it's finally putting down that backpack that you've been carrying.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe awareness isn't the destination, but maybe awareness is simply the doorway back to yourself.
Absolutely. Because healing isn't measured by how much you've analyzed yourself. It's measured by how fully you're able to participate in life, even with your imperfections.
Yeah. Right. So maybe the question is for everybody, when do I start living?
Right. There we go. That's a wonderful. Or what have I done today to live?
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great thing. When do I start living? Right. Because life is happening now.
Yeah, exactly.
It just is. And so you don't have to, nobody is perfectly healed. It's not after you fix every wound.
Yeah.
It's not after you've figured everything out.
Right. It's not even a goal to fix every wound and to be fully healed.
I mean, it's really giving yourself permission to be fully alive before you feel fully healed.
Yeah.
So just feel alive. Alive.
Yeah. There's this beautiful thing that Dr. Peter Levine always talks about. It's a Japanese tradition where if a bowl breaks, if it has cracks in it, they fill it with gold. Yeah. And they consider the bowl even more beautiful.
Yeah.
With these cracks that are filled with gold. And that's kind of a symbolic almost, or a metaphor summary of what we've been talking about today.
So true. Because remember, everybody, you are not your trauma. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your wounds. You are not your mistakes. You are not the hardest thing that you've ever been through. You are so much more than all of that. And maybe healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's as Dwayne says, like coming home to yourself.
Yes.
Everybody, thanks for joining us today on Psychology and the Soul. we will be back. Shirley and I are taking a July month off.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I'm going to be visiting Shirley.
Yay! I know. I'm so excited.
So excited. Because I love Fiercely, and I'm so excited to go.
Yes.
So
And
excited.
I love that. Oh my God, I can't
We're
wait.
going to be creative, and we're going to do some fun stuff, Shirley.
Yes, we are.
And we will be back on August 4th.
Mm-hmm.
But please join me on this Thursday for Ask Me Anything, because I will be doing the Vedic astrology for the month of July. And we'll be talking about that. And also my calendar, I still have a few sessions left. I have sessions left for July. Now that we're in July, so I will be traveling, but please go to my kelleewhite.com and you can find times in there, and please sign up for a session with me.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Shirley, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Great, and I'm going to see you very soon.
Yes. I love you fiercely too.
I love you fiercely too.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Out there, everybody.
Yes. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.